Welcome back, everybody. Another episode of the Clutch Pearl Pod. This is our last regular season pod of the year. Sad to see it go. Hate to watch it leave. It's been pretty entertaining. We got the Final Four coming up this weekend. We got NC State, Purdue. We got Bama and UConn on the other side. So no more messing around. Let's jump right into it. Let's go. Let's talk about this Bama and UConn game first because I feel like there's more opinions to be had on the other games. So we'll save that for later. What are your initial thoughts when you look at this matchup on paper?
Uh, Bet UConn on the spread.
Yeah, that's,
they, I actually saw an article from ESPN today, and they've in the NCAA tournament the last 2 years, they are, I think it was 10-0 or 11-0 against the spread. I think it's 10-0, looking to go 11-0 against the spread in the last 2 years. That hasn't been done since 1985. But not only has UConn beat the spread over that span, but they're averaging beating it by 13 and a half points. Uh, and they are a double-digit favorite. I don't think this game is going to be as close as the Illinois game was. The Illinois game at one point was a 30-point game. So if that tells you how I feel about Alabama in this matchup, it's not much.
no, I tend to agree with you. I didn't have Alabama getting anywhere near this point personally, but props to them for doing it. They've tuned a lot of things up they did really bad during the season, especially on the defensive end. Like they actually show a little bit of defensive intensity right now. I mean, obviously they've gotten to this point, so they're doing something right. But
Yeah,
UConn, they just got dudes. Like you just go
yeah.
up and down. That's a bad dude. That's a bad dude. Then some bad dudes.
In all honesty, like I know I'm an Illinois homer, but they're basically a poor man's Illinois. Like both teams uh, coming into the tournament basically didn't play defense. All of a sudden, starting with their conference tournaments, decided they were going to play defense and went on a run. In Bama's case, the one seed they had to play was UNC. Illinois' case, the one seed they had to play was UConn. And that's the difference. One played a juggernaut, and one played a one seed that probably should have been a two. Plain and simple.
I want to. It's behind us now, but I want to go back to that Illinois game, and like I'm just gonna glaze UConn for a second because what they what they did to Illinois, like aside from the score, just their game plan was masterful. Like they put Klingon on non-shooting guards and just let him sit back, and then they put a guard on Coleman Hawkins, who is a non-posting big. Like just little things like that is what quickly and didn't help Illinois couldn't hit the broadside of a barn in the second half. But really, UConn, I don't remember what the final stats was, but midway through the second half had only hit two threes in that game. Like it's not like they were just killing them with deep balls.
Yeah, in all honesty, like there's a lot of fans on Twitter, typical Illini Twitter. There's some great, there's some dumb to it. Uh, there was a lot of Illini fans like, oh, Underwood, that was a terrible coach game. In all honesty, both coaches outcoached the other one on the defensive end. Like Illinois, even though they allowed a 30-0 run, it wasn't because of their defense. Their defense was fantastic. They just, like you said, I mean, couldn't throw it in the ocean. And as Underwood even said at the end of the game, like credit early in that one. In his defensive game plan. It was fantastic. But like you mentioned, I mean, Illinois did everything they were supposed to do on the defensive end, really, outside of stopping clean. But in all honesty, I think they were taking an approach kind of like they took against Purdue in that second one, which was, how they let Edey get his and guard everybody else. They let Clean get his and guard everybody else. And most nights, they were very successful. Just for whatever reason, Damask couldn't buy a bucket in the second half after he was blazing hot. Shannon just couldn't get a shot off. Tristan Newton, I believe, is who guarded him and did a masterful job, unbelievable job on Shannon. And Hawkins, Just couldn't buy a bucket, and really, I mean, Underwood said it. You know, we got to shoot more threes at halftime, and we'll be in business. Well, they shot more threes, but they didn't make them because I mean, Underwood was right. Going at Klingon and trying to dunk on him wasn't working. Quincy Guerrier, but shooting the threes was the right thing to do. You just got to make them fall, and they didn't, and that resulted in a 30-0 run.
I'm I mean, what else can you say? That this UConn team is insane. It's
Yeah,
like watching 2019 LSU. Like you watch them, and you're just like, yeah, these. It doesn't matter who they're playing; these boys don't have a chance against them. Like they're just
yeah. You know,
incredible.
in most years, you know, we talked about at the beginning of the year. In most years, it seemed like recently the team without, uh, you know, a dominant five man that played positionless basketball like the NBA was going to win it all. This year, and we'll get into it a little bit later, there's two teams that are built the exact same, and that's Purdue and UConn. And I think one of those two is going to bring it home.
It really just in general. I mean, three of the four Final Four teams play through their big man. Like we're kind of seeing the return of the big man to college basketball a little bit.
Yeah, one thing I will mention though, Burns and Edey are the exceptions to this, but Klingon, and I think that's why UConn is just so unstoppable, is the fact that Klingon can shoot the three too. Like he's a good shooter. So he's like a Coleman Hawkins type, but he's 7 foot, not 6'10". And that's the big difference.
So let's switch gears to the game. I think me and you are probably most excited for. We've texted about it quite a bit over the last week. That's NC State and Purdue with a very intriguing battle of the fives. Like I've been thinking about it all week. I can't like wrap my head around how it's gonna go. Like I really don't know. But
Yeah.
I you got me started on Zach Edey. Don't get me started on him again because I will rant. But
Well, you mentioned to me earlier in the week, you think that Keats may put Diarra on Edey and try to double him in the post. I think they're going to let Burns and Edey go one on one, just go at it. And I think the officials, unless we get some SEC officials, uh, I think they're just going to let them go at it. I think they're going to let some things go. It's going to be like both teams have played most of the year. You know, Burns bangs a little bit inside, gets by with some foul calls, but also gets hammered every time he shoots it. And Edey does the same thing. So I think they're just going to go at it. They're going to hurt the hell out of each other and see which heavy man can win the fight.
see, I actually like Burns a little bit in this matchup, simply for the fact that he will be the first player that Edey has seen this whole tournament who can physically move him. Like we saw it a little bit at the end of that Tennessee game. They brought in the freshman, I forget his name, the big, he's like 6'10". He started to push Edey out a little bit and he was missing shots. Like if you get Edey outside of that 5 feet around the basket, like his effectiveness drops down to a very marginal value. Like he is not good outside of the restricted arc, honestly. Like the only
Yeah,
jump shot is his free throw, which I guess is not a jump shot, but you know what I'm getting at.
yeah, really where he makes his impact. A lot of people go on and on about his scoring. It's really his passing on the offensive end out of the post, getting the ball to their four shooters because Painter has done a fantastic job landing Lance Jones and adding in Smith and Lawyer around him. So I mean, they generally have four shooters around Edey, so he does a good job passing the post. But really, he's what makes their defense work. He's I'll say it. He's a better version of Kofi Coburn on the defensive end. Uh, Kofi was the heart and soul of Illinois' defense that year when they didn't have Kofi in those couple games when he was suspended. And when he got hurt that one game, they struggled defensively a lot, gave up close to 100 points. Purdue's very similar to that. When Edie's not on the floor, I mean, they can't guard a soul. But when he's out there, like their defense is just so good. So it'll be interesting. But I actually agree with you. Paint matchup, Burns wins the matchup between him and Edie. But I think Purdue's guards are just too good. Braden Smith is unbelievable. He got over those turnover woes that he had throughout most of the year, and he hasn't been turning it over much. And him and Lawyer are both shooting it really, really well right now.
See, I am less concerned about North Carolina State on the defensive end against Purdue than I am on the offensive end because I think like Burns can hold his own. He can push the Edie out. If he's not getting fouls called on him doing it, he can just body him out of the paint where he's ineffective, and then they don't have to double. So you can guard those guards on the outside. You can play one on one. I think Horn and I forget they have another good guard. Uh, they can hold their own. Like they're a solid veteran squad. Defensively, I think they're fine. Offensively is where I see some issues coming in. Like I wouldn't be surprised at all if this game is played in the low 60s.
Yeah,
Just be but Burns is only we say only he's only what 6'8", 6'9". He's not all his Edie has to do is take a step back, and the same way Edie's ineffective when you get pushed out. If Burns doesn't have a body on him to feel where he's playing off of, he's useless in the post as well. And you don't have to double him when you have Edie guarding him. So it's going to be the same situation on both ends of the floor.
yeah, I agree with that. I think the key matchup for NC State on the offensive end is going to be Horn guarded by Lance Jones because Lance Jones guards everybody's best player, and he's the only guy that he hasn't shut down all year that they played was Terrence Shannon uh, and Boo Booey. So there's two of them. Those two guys kind of went at him. So interesting to see because I don't think Horn is on the caliber of either one of those players. So it'll be interesting to see if Horn can get some buckets on Lance Jones, who just flat guards.
I think the two key pieces for NC State will be their other two bigs that they rotate in with Burns and Middlebrooks and Diarra. Both can spread the floor out. They can shoot a little bit. I mean, you can't put a guard on either of them. They're big. They can shoot over them. So if you're Purdue there, what are you doing? If you have Burns and a Middlebrook in the game,
Well, that's where you go with Trey Kaufman Wren. He's a great defender. That's when they go, and he can shoot it a little bit, but he's mostly a defender and rebounder. So you'll just go too big. Purdue go two bigs.
I mean, if you take Burns out of that game, you can put a Middlebrooks or a Diarra in there who has to be guarded by Edie, put him in ball screens all day and just blend him up. He's not a good ball screen defender.
Yeah,
He's not.
I think that's where Painter is so smart. Did this against Illinois. If Dane Danger was in the game, usually Edie was in the game. When Dane wasn't in the game, that's when he would get Edie his breaks. So I think when they take Burns out, he might get Edie a break here or there. And don't be surprised if they show a little 3-2 zone. Purdue likes to go to that when they get in matchups that they don't like with Edie. If he gets put in a lot of ball screens, they'll go to a 3-2 zone with the Jones in the middle up top and Lawyer and Smith on the wings, and they'll go Wren and Edie down low.
I mean, with Burns in the game, it's going to look a lot like a zone anyway because Edie's just going to sit in the paint. Like that's what
Yeah,
he does. They're in man on non-shooters. He just sits in the paint. He does not move.
yeah,
But that's where DR and Middlebrooks I think will be key again. It's a fun matchup. I'm really looking forward to that.
yeah. They really counteract a lot of things that each other does. So I agree. It should be a fun one for sure.
That's definitely the game I look forward to more. So we've broke it down a little bit. What's your pick? Give me give
Uh,
me give me your pick and a realistic score.
well, I mean, I told you earlier I'm going UConn and Purdue in the title game, so Purdue is my pick, and I think the score is going to be 72-66.
Yeah, I'm gonna go along the same route, but I think it's gonna be a lower scoring game than that. I think winner tops out at like 66, 68. So I'm gonna say Purdue 66, NC State 59. It's gonna be
Oh,
a low
I,
scoring affair. It's gonna be some just slow bully ball in the paint. It's gonna be fun to watch, don't get me wrong. If the refs don't call 17,000 fouls on
like I
cheating.
said, don't bring out the SEC officials, and we'll be good.
I will say overall, aside from that Tennessee game, like they've really let the big men play this tournament. Like it
And
hasn't
that,
it that bad.
yeah, and honestly, I think that's what like against Illinois. Like I'm not making excuses because they weren't going to win that game regardless when they went on 14-minute scoreless stretch. But you know, Klingon got by with some stuff inside when Illinois was going in. And I mean, Hawkins got by with some stuff too. So, I mean, it goes both ways. But, that really impacts the game when a team like, say, Illinois and Alabama, which run a lot of 5 out and are trying to attack the rim with a dribble drive. And, they're letting the big men get by and play a little bit. And it really hurts teams like that because it's so much more of a physical game.
I want to swing it back to the Alabama game real quick. There's one team who beat UConn in their conference that I think Alabama could kind of copy what they did, and they could have a shot at doing the unthinkable and beating them. But if you watch what Seton Hall did to them, where they were, I mean, they're an athletic team, a fast team. They just got up and under their defense. It was in transition the whole game. Like that's what Alabama wants to do.
Yeah,
And if they're rolling and can actually do it, then I think they could have a chance. Your problem with Alabama though is they can also get beat in transition really easily because of how many threes they shoot.
yeah. And I mean, really, okay. If you watch the first half of that Illinois game and the last like 8 minutes of that one, 8 to 10 minutes of that one, Illinois actually outscored them. They just didn't score in a 14-minute stretch, right? So like
Well,
so
I
in
did not
reality,
game live. I was at a Easter dinner, but I was watching
okay.
highlights
Yeah.
afterwards.
So in reality, like there's a blueprint that Illinois actually set in that horrendous game they played, right? There is actually a blueprint that they set for Alabama to win, and it's that sort of thing. And it's basically, you know, the only difference is I would double Klingon in the post and make him kick it out. If their shooters get hot, you're just going to have to live with it and run with them and try to score points with them. But basically, Illinois did all the right things. They just didn't make shots. So if Alabama copies that game plan but makes shots, it could get interesting. I will admit it.
I mean, if I'm playing UConn, I would much rather take the chance of them just obliterating you from the 3 point line rather than them doubling up your points in the paint.
Yeah,
So I mean, statistically speaking, you're better off getting beat by threes than you are getting beat by clinging in the post.
yeah,
But I mean,
absolutely.
they're gonna have to double it because they have nobody who can guard him. Pringles, they're big, and dude probably weighs 185 pounds. I mean,
Yeah,
he's tall.
yeah. He's
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 built our Donovan Clingan.
yeah. I mean, he's smaller than Hawkins, so they really don't have a shot if they want to go 1-on-1 in the post. Okay,
So
so all right, we've got our picks now. Seems pretty clear. We both picked UConn and Purdue, right?
yes, sir.
All right. Is that your dream title matchup?
I mean, I'm on the DJ Burns hype train right now, and the more I get to watch him play, the happier I will be. But no, that like that is Purdue and UConn going at it. Like those bigs going at it it'll be cinema. It'll be fun to watch. So I'm gonna go with that as well, even though I hope it doesn't happen.
Yeah, that would be my dream matchup. I know it's who I picked, but it's also my dream matchup just because, like, I mean, to me, it's kind of a situation when Baylor and Gonzaga they played Gonzaga in the title game, right?
Man, I don't even remember.
I believe so. It was the top 2 teams in the country. It was pretty clear. I know Houston got a higher seed in the tournament, but to me, Purdue and UConn have been the best 2 teams all year, and I really hope the best 2 teams play in the national title game because, like you said, it'll be awesome TV. So now that we've got that established, who are you taking, UConn or Purdue?
UConn's a freight train right now, and nobody's stopping them. I don't care if you throw Zach Edey and DJ Burns combined. UConn's rolling.
Yeah, uh, I'm gonna have to go to the same pick, but I think they're really, really, really similar teams. UConn and Purdue are. They play the same way. Uh, the biggest thing for me is and Kaufman, Wren, whoever. I think. Uh, I just think in general, Purdue has a tougher matchup in the Final Four than UConn does, and I mean Hurley as a whole has done a good job resting his guys throughout the whole tournament. So I just think UConn's going to be fresher.
I agree. Well, they'll be the first to go back to back since Florida, and was that 06, 07, or 05,
Six,
06?
6, 7. Yep, believe that was Joakim Noah on that roster.
Yeah.
That tells you how long ago it is. All right. Well, another great episode. We gave you our picks. You got anything else, Grant?
It's been fun, and next time we see you, we'll have a new national champion, and it will no longer be basketball season. So that's
It'll be
kind of sad.
portal time, baby.
Oh yeah, there's a lot going on we can talk about once the tournament's over.
Sure. Portal Combat will be at you next. I'm Noah Carter. I'm here with Grant Tanner, and another episode presented, by Caleb Mawson Media. Hope you give us a sub and a like. Thanks for listening in.